Hello and welcome. This is Eagle Eye 621, and today we're going to be talking about the best enchantments you can have for your tools. As you can see, we're in my armor testing world. It's gotten an upgrade for the best tools and weapons. The weapons will come in a future video. This one is talking about the tools. Now, if you check the description, you can jump ahead to see the tools that you're looking for specifically. And at the end, I'll go through them all very quickly in case you want to take some screenshots instead of going through the explanation. So let's start off with our pickaxe. And this right here is how you craft it. And these are all the different enchantments you can have on it. You can have mending, unbreaking, efficiency, silk touch, and fortune. You can also have cursive vanishing, but this is something that you obviously do not want to put on it. And in this one, it's kind of an and as opposed to an or. You're going to want to have two different pickaxes. You're going to want to have a silk and a fortune 3 pickaxe. You're going to want to put the mending and unbreaking as well as the efficiency 5 on both of them. And you can only have fortune or the silk touch. You're going to want to have one of each. The fortune is a must for your different ores. You want to get the most out of your diamonds, your redstone, and those kind of things. And the silk touch is also a must because you want to be able to pick up all of the different kinds of blocks, especially things like glass that will break if you hit it with a fortune or anything other than a silk touch. So in this case, your best is actually one of each. Let's talk about shovels. And the shovel enchantments you can have, again, are your mending and unbreaking. And you can have efficiency. And then here you must again choose between the fortune and the silk touch. And do avoid the cursive vanishing. This is our recipe to make it. And the best one you're going to have is your silk touch. Now you want the efficiency for speed, the unbreaking and mending obviously help you in terms of longevity, and the silk touch is better than your fortune because when you're mining gravel, you don't want to have too much flint. Also, if you want to pick up grass blocks, mycelium, those kind of blocks, you're going to want to have the silk touch to be able to pick up that block specifically. Now, if you do have the extra enchantments, it's a good idea to have the fortune as well. Your most common use for this one is really going to be if you want to convert the gravel into some flint for your crafting purposes or just to collect. And most of the time, it really won't come into play that much. If you're going on a big sand mining mission, then you can just bring both of them along and it'll double the amount you can collect before you need to repair them. As for axes, we have a couple of other enchantments you can have. First, you can have your mending and your unbreaking, as well as your efficiency, which you do want to put on all of them. And then here you can also choose between silk touch and your fortune. And then you can actually add some attacks on this as well. Bane of Arthropods, sharpness, or smite in order to do damage to enemies and once again avoid your cursive vanishing. Now this is your crafting recipe right here, and the one you're really going to want to make is the smite. So you want to put your unbreaking 3 on it, your efficiency 5, your silk touch and mending, and you're going to want to add that smite as opposed to the other types of attacks. And the reason you're going to want to avoid fortune is because typically this isn't really going to do much for you. So your first choice right here, as I said, is the smite and the silk touch. I also have a sharpness, but still keeping that silk touch. Now the reason that you're going to want this or this in terms of the smite versus the sharpness is who you're attacking. And I'll get more into this when I talk about weapons because this is a pretty effective weapon. And your Fortune 3 really does not come into play a lot. Technically, you can get some better drops for certain crops if you're going to manually harvest them. That said, by the time you're in the position to put a Fortune 3 on your axe, you're probably also at the stage in your world where you're trying to automate most of your farms. So this really does not come into play a lot. You don't even really have to make this. You really want to stick with the Smite 5 Silk Touch and the Sharpness 5 also Silk Touch, depending on the enemies in your world, which I said we'll also get to in the weapon side over there in another video. As for your Diamond Hoe, it's pretty straightforward. You can only have 2 enchantments on them, Mending and Unbreaking. Again, avoid your Curse of Vanishing. And this is your crafting recipe. Very straightforward. You can only have 2 that you want. Put them both on. Fishing is pretty similar. This is your crafting recipe right here. There are 4 different enchantments that you can have on it. You can have your Mending, Unbreaking, Lure, and Luck of the Sea, and all 4 of them will go onto the same fishing rod. There are no issues with contradictory or certain enchantments that conflict with others. You are going to want to put all 4 on it, the Mending and Unbreaking, for your longevity. And if you go AFK fishing, having Mending and Unbreaking on your fishing rod means it will repair itself while you are fishing. Just make sure you take off your armor and have nothing else on your offhand, which can steal the XP and could result in your fishing rod breaking. But if this is the only thing you have in your hand and you have no armor, it is more than sufficient to repair itself. The Luck of the Sea and the Lure increase the speed at which you will catch certain items while you're fishing, and the types of items that you'll have. You are typically fishing for the books. You're not really fishing to get the fish, so you'll get more books and other better things while you're fishing if you have the Lure 3 and the Luck of the Sea, as I said, faster and better. As for your Flint and Steel, we have our crafting recipe, and this one is also rather straightforward. Mending and Unbreaking 3 are the only things you can put on it, and they don't conflict, so put them both on. This is a little bit flashy, along with the Diamond Hoe, putting on the Unbreaking and Mending. A lot of people don't bother just because it's so easy to make, and for this one over here, the Diamond Hoe, it just lasts a long time even without it. But if you do want to have the perfect Flint and Steel, then you do want to add that Unbreaking and Mending to it. As you can tell, all of these are clones from my survival world, which is why they're named. As for the Shears, again, this is pretty straightforward. You can have your Mending, you can have your Unbreaking, and you can also have your Efficiency. They do not conflict. You can put all 3 of them on. This is your crafting recipe. A lot of people don't bother because it's really easy to just make more of these, but if you do want to have the perfect set of shears, then you can add all 3 of those. Again, avoiding the Curse of Vanishing. As a little Easter egg, you used to be able to add Silk Touch to them, but that was removed in version 1.9. There are certain areas where it does come into play. If you have a coral farm, for example, and certain other farms, you can actually double it up and get multiple different drops if you were able to have both the Silk Touch on it as well. But since you can't, this is as good as you can do. If your world is old enough, these still do work. You just can't make any more. So, best you can have in the game right now. If you somehow were able to have some saved, then adding the Silk Touch to that would have made it better. Carrot on a stick. Now, most of you will probably never craft this because the only real purpose is if you're riding on a pig, and most of you won't ride on a pig. But if you ever want to because you're tired of your horses and you don't want to fly, well, this one's pretty straightforward. You can put Mending and Unbreaking on it. Those are the only 2 things you can have on it, and they don't conflict. So just slap them both on so you can have your perfect carrot on a stick. Again, avoiding the vanishing. And this is your crafting recipe down here. You just need your regular fishing rod with a carrot. And then the name's a little bit on the nose. Carrot on a stick, because That's what you're doing. And then the Trident, which we'll get into more on the weapons side, actually does have some utility. Now, talking about the enchantments that we can put on it, you can put on the Mending and Unbreaking. And you can also put on your Impaling, which will make the attack stronger, which we'll get into later. And you can also avoid your Curse of Vanishing. There is no crafting recipe. You do need to kill Drowned in order to get this as a drop. And here are your two perfect Tridents based on this here. So you can put Riptide on your Trident, or you can put your Loyalty on it, as well as Channeling, which can go with the Loyalty. But if you put your Riptide on, you can't get these two. And the reason that I'm including the Tridents in a tool is specifically because of these Riptides. If you have Elytra and it's raining, you can travel extraordinarily fast with the combination of your Elytra wings activated and Riptide 3. It's one of the faster ways to travel in Minecraft, especially because it doesn't require you to set up any sort of road or system. You can just travel through the world like this. And the reason I'm adding the 1 and 2 along with the 3 is because you can actually launch Ender Pearls with your Trident. So depending on how far you want to go, you can set up stations to launch your Ender Pearls in order to travel faster through the world even when it's not raining. So these are the non-combat functionalities. The Riptide does allow you to travel in water, although the water effect is really not that great. The raining effect is tremendous in terms of being able to travel long distances fast, and the Ender Pearls also are a unique way to travel over long distances pretty fast. Now, there are some non-enchantable tools as well. You have your lead, and this is your crafting recipe over here. You have a clock, and this is the recipe over here. And you have your compass, and this is the recipe over here. And you can't really add any enchantments to these because they won't do anything different, but just things to remember that you can access in your world. So that's the armor box. This is the tools and weapons box. Just to go over what we've done on the tools side very quickly. For your perfect pickaxe, you're going to want 2. You're going to want your efficiency 5 with your silk touch, unbreaking 3, and mending. You're going to want the same setup but with a fortune 3 instead of your silk touch. For your axe, you're going to want your sharpness 5, efficiency 5, unbreaking 3, mending, and silk touch. And you're going to want one of those with a smite 5 instead of your sharpness 5. And then if you really want, you can have a fortune 3 instead of your silk touch, although this is going to not see a whole lot of action in your world. For our shovels, you're going to want 2 of them. Efficiency 5, silk touch, unbreaking 3, and mending, as well as a fortune 3 instead of that silk touch, although again, this one will see a lot less use than this one will. For the diamond hoe, it's unbreaking 3 and mending. That's all you can have. You can add them all. Your flint and steel, again, is going to be unbreaking 3 and mending. That's all you can have, and you do want both. The shears are going to be efficiency 5, unbreaking 3, and mending. If you have any left over in your world that have silk touch, that's great. But if you're making them right now, this is the best you can do. Our fishing rod is going to have mending, unbreaking 3, luck of the sea 3, and lore 3. Those are the only 4, and you can add them all. So this is your perfect fishing rod. And for those that want a carrot on a stick, you can add the unbreaking 3 and the mending. Those are all that you can add. And again, just put both. And I'm just going to flash through these now very quickly in case you want to take some screenshots. And this way you can have your reference guide while you are making them. Now, if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.